Namaste, Jai Bharat. Whenever we talk of anything, we can see there are two versions of the phenomenon we are trying to discuss. Two versions, very broadly divided, two versions. That is, one, a Bharatiya version, and two, non-Bharatiya version. I'm not trying to pose something great, that Bharat is something great, but this has a reason. The Bharatiya version and a non-Bharatiya version. Why there is an exclusive Bharatiya version is only simply because Bharat has a very ancient and rather the first knowledge tradition of mankind. Knowledge tradition of mankind, a knowledge tradition which took care of every thinkable aspects of knowing. This is important. When you give some thoughts to it, you will understand that Bharat has a knowledge tradition which had inquired into and gathered knowledge about every thinkable aspect of knowing. I need not to explain more. If you go thinking deep, this becomes clear to you and actually self-evident to you when you look at it. Now, today I will discuss about the types of governance in the world. Types of governance. If the European method, when you look at the European world, there everything begins with the Greek knowledge tradition. I am calling Greek also a knowledge tradition to make things smoother. So Greece had both a kind of democracy and also a kind of monarchy. And the Greek, someone says it's the first democracy, which really is not the case. If you really want to speak about an archetype first democracy, you have to go to the Vedic period, about which things are not much known, but there are indications that there were no ruler and the ruled. There's a situation which we are yet to understand. Anyway, that's different. But the Greek democracy was really not a complete democracy, because there the women had no right to vote, and the slaves also had no right to vote. Their slaves are different from the slaves of Europe. They had slaves because they went to Africa and caught all of the black people, thinking that they're dehumanized humans, and they did that slave trade, etc. But for Greece, the slaves come from prisoners of wars, etc. Anyway, so that's one kind of ruling democracy, which was only in the making in the beginning. Another kind of ruling which were most popular, another type of governance which was most popular was monarchy, kind of monarchy. Now we will speak about different types of monarchies. There is a difference again between the kings in the European concept and the Raja Maharajas of Bharat. The kings in the European context predominantly, of course, inherited their kingdom or throne, and everywhere, Bharat also, they were inheriting the throne. But there is a difference. In Greece, they were kind of monarchs, and in Egypt also they were monarchy. In the Greece, for example, if you look at Pythagoras, the Greeks attached divinity to great people who must have become rulers or providers of governance. There are many, or most of them. The Greek general public thought that they're demigods. They have the concept of demigods. So they thought they must be demigods. Pythagoras, etc., and many others were treated as demigods. And Aristotle, look at the demigod status of Aristotle. There was a question somebody asked, how many teeth a horse may have? Then somebody in the king's council said, now why asking this question? Let's go catch a horse and go count it. Then you can find out how many teeth a horse may have. But that person who gave that answer was punished by the king, because he should have answered, let's go and ask Aristotle. Aristotle is supposed to know everything in their concept. Not that Aristotle claims that. He doesn't. But people have thought so. They also treated him as a demigod. So the punishment came because instead of answering that let's go and ask Aristotle, this man says he will go and count, or we can go and count how many teeth the horse may have. Are you so capable of finding out knowledge by yourselves in front of Aristotle? That was the status of Aristotle. Now, when it comes to modern, rather roughly later, so-called modern times, we have texts which speaks about governance in the European context. Two books are available to us which we should talk about. One is Francis Bacon, thinker. Another one is Machiavelli, another two thinker. In political studies, these two thinkers are discussed at length. Now, when it comes to Francis Bacon, the prime text which people focus on, Novum Organon, New Organon and other writings, etc. New Organon. Then in Machiavelli, it is Prince and other writings. Machiavelli's text explicitly speaks about prince, means king. A prince need not have any knowledge, any qualities, but it is sufficient. You should make people believe that he is these. Yes, these qualities sufficient. So prince deception begins from the level of the prince, that is the ruler, king. That is one way of looking at the monarchy in the European context. Francis Bacon speaks about deception in a different manner. He says, you are deceived from four quarters. He calls the deceiving techniques as idols. First idol comes from the home, which is called idols of the cave. Idols of the cave. Then second deception comes from your community, idols of the tribe. Third deception comes from public interaction, public sphere, as later people say, Habermas says. That is idols of the marketplace. And the fourth deception comes from your literature and your text, other text, which is idols of the theatre. So Bacon himself speaks about these four types of idols, which through deceptions are made. These deceptions at that time are fundamentally intended to maintain domination of a given ruler upon people, that the ruler is really eligible and competent to rule them, and there's no one else better than him. Now, this is the message goes through all this ideological deceptions, four ideologies Bacon speaks about. Machiavelli very clearly says a prince need not have any qualities as he is supposed to. It's sufficient that he makes people believe that he has all the qualities. And Machiavelli adds one more thing interestingly. He says, if one is a prince, he knows how best to deceive people into believing that he is great with all qualities. Now, that's one kind of governance we find in the European context. But the Bharatiya perspective, as I've told you, there is always a different perspective from Bharatiya knowledge tradition. It is so vast. It takes time to speak, so I can only give you indicators. Look at any Bharatiya king, not the invaders. Don't make a mistake. that the invaders were not Bharatiya Raja Maharajas. We don't call them as king, we call them as Raja Maharajas. Fundamentally, they were all scholars. Because the four ashramas in life, as prescribed in the Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition, the Brahmacharya ashrama of 25 years, Grahastha 25 years, Vanaprastha roughly 25 years, and then Tapasya after 75 till you die. 25 years roughly, dividing human life into 100 years. So, the first ashrama, Brahmacharya is ashrama for 25 years, is a place where person has to acquire knowledge, experience, everything, whichever is needed for his life later. This is the four archetype ashramas. So the princess who was supposed to be, who will become king tomorrow, or Maharajas tomorrow, Raja Maharaj tomorrow, the Rajkumars, will also have to go to Gurukulas and study with other students without discrimination that he is son of a king and he is son of somebody else. No, that discriminations were ideally not made in a Gurukula. We have the example of Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Sudama Brahman. They too belong to two different so-called class in Bharatiya sense, not in Marxian sense. Two different categories, class, but they were best friends. One goes to become a ruler, but Shri Krishna Bhagavan, before becoming a ruler, he was playing havoc in Mahabharata battle. That's a different story again. So another one goes into poverty, utter poverty. That story, So during that period, they have acquired knowledge and go, and then subsequently becomes the Maharajas. Now another thing, we also had Ganarajas, Bharat. I'm not going into that. That was archetype democracy in any case. The Rajas, they had a Mantri Mandala, group of ministers, advising. That one kind of advising body with multiple minds, where the Maharaja is saved from making mistakes, corrected from making mistakes. And they also had the concept of Raj Purohita, who was an ultimate authority in spirituality. In transcendentality, spirituality again misleads you into understanding the European kind of spirituality. But the transcendentality talks about things. So there is an advice of Raj Purohita, Mandri Mandala's advising, and interestingly, there was a period in Bharat when the Maharajas of different places may not directly know one another, but the Mantri Mandala people knew one another because most of them were classmates in the University of Takshashila. They studied together. Many of the mantris and ministers in the Mantri Mandala were classmates because they studied up down in Takshashila, and they had common Gurujis many places. So in case of a requirement of a discussion with another princely state, the Maharaja might not know the Maharaja of other place, but the ministers knew one another. Friends they used to be. So many of the inter-princely state political differences could be talked and settled. That situation also was there at one time in Bharat. So monarchy, Raja Maharaja's time, the Maharaja of Bharat is absolutely different from a king in the European concept. Here we call them mostly as Dharma Rajas, and they were scholars. Don't forget, Vijayanagara in the south was one of the greatest empire in Bharat, and at one time, we know when Krishna Deva Raya was ruling, who was his prime minister? None other than Sayanacharya. Such great scholars. And Sayanacharya's family great scholars, they were mostly in the service of the Maharaja. So this was the situation in Bharat. We have, again, to conclude, I would say, for everything we come across, for every phenomena, if you closely observe, you can find a Bharatiya version and an Abharatiya version. Because of the simple reason, Bharata is the first ever knowledge tradition of mankind, which is nothing other than the Veda Upanishadic knowledge tradition. So, whenever phenomenon comes to you, where you may know, you may not know, but take it with a pinch of salt to try to find out that how could a Bharatiya reaction or understanding be about this given phenomenon of another understanding of a Bharatiya perception. The possibility is always there, and I'm sure that if you try to find out a Bharatiya version, you will find it, and that will be, as I feel, that will be more complete, more instructive, and more enlightening. Let's use our own concept, more enlightening. Till we meet again, Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Shri Ram.